Hello and welcome to another WeAreDevelopers Live. It's Wednesday again. We're not at all surprised by this starting this time on time. So we are still heads down and doing all the video post production for the conference. And if you're a speaker at a conference, please wait until the bloody intro is over. Right now, I've got so many people that talk over the intro slide with their name and the animation and the text, and I'm trying to filter things with the post-production in the video, and no, it's not a thing. Also, when you're at the end of your talk and you have a thank you slide, just say like, and that's all for me, thank you very much, and then do a 3-second pause, and not just say like, oh, and I'm almost 15 seconds over, and I'm like, and if I have any questions, and our booth is over there. So for people that want to post at it, and you as a presenter want the thing later on to be online as well, those are the things. Just 2-second, 3-second pauses are a good idea at times.
Do you know, I was going to let you do a 2 or 3 second pause, but maybe not. That'd be dead air. I will say, Chris, you're actually very easy to edit because, last week you said it's only when you do speaking live or anything like that you become aware of your mannerisms. You've got a mannerism that's so good for editing because before your start, you'll go like this. So you give me a clapperboard, which means I can then just line it up in the edit. And that's so helpful because it might be intentional, it might not, but either way, it's really useful. And it's kind of the opposite of the speakers who just start going before the music even begins.
When I worked in radio, it was basically the breathing in through the nose was the starting point. So before you say the sentence, when you do recording for audio ads, for example, for advertisement, you do a, and this is where you get the best prices for your thing. And you can see that easily in the audio editor that basically it goes up. So that way you can edit really easy that way. And I mean, back in days, we did it by hand, like with tape. So you heard we didn't have any computers at the radio station I worked at. And nowadays in an audio file, you can easily see that. And it's a very good idea. And it's also good for your pronunciation to actually have enough air to start with to get that sorted. So one of the things we do today kind of differently is that we don't have any resources yet, or we do have a few that I'm putting together right now. But we have a guest that actually was at the Congress and couldn't give his talk because of rain. So we want to invite him here to actually repeat the talk. And we're going to do that with the 5 others that were also struck by lightning. So to actually make sure that we get these recordings as well, and people who actually submitted, went through the CFP and got through it, also have a chance to give their presentation here. So without further ado, we have Tim Cadenbach here.
Yes.
And Tim, what do you do, and where are you, and who do you work for, and which company do we have to thank you for having you here?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I live in Bochum in Germany. So if you don't know what that is, next to Dortmund in the metropolitan rule, pretty lovely area. Lived here all my life. I work for DeepL, currently responsible for community and developer relations, pretty much. Work in marketing. And I just heard you talk about these speakers on the conference, and I want to add one thing because we had some problem. So if you have a talk scheduled for, let's say, 30 minutes and you only need 15, then let the moderator know, because that came out of surprise, like, oh, I'm done now. Wait, you're done? What's that? Okay. That was kind of a surprise.
You're racing on stage because you were also moderating, right?
Yeah. I was moderating stage 10, I think. And
How
then
was
moved
that?
over to the outside area. We were like, oh, well, you might have to cancel, and we've been talking about that. Eventually we have to cancel, and some of the organizers said, yeah, you can do it. The rain is scheduled for like in an hour or something. And then what would have been probably 5 minutes into my talk, it rained dogs. So
Cats, dogs, hippos, and elephants.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the thing is, in Berlin, we have all these like reports that there's going to be storm tomorrow, and there's going to be storm again, and nothing happened so far. I mean, I guess better safe than sorry. I mean, they even canceled a Robbie Williams concert. So, I mean, don't feel too bad that you got canceled, because probably that cost people much more money. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. So in terms of like the speakers and the experience that you had as a moderator, how did you find the stage tech and everything? Was that something you got used to? Did you moderate before? Was it better, worse than somewhere else?
definitely good. Like there was nothing. The only thing we had problems with, the stage I had was in the middle of two big stages, so we decided this is a old silent stage. But then the speakers were actually like people loved the guys, and at one point we had like 300 people standing around when it was only supposed to have 100, and we didn't have enough headphones. So the audio guy said, "Look, yeah, we need to use the PA, otherwise people can't hear anything." And that was a little bit tricky, but they handled it quite well. So no,
I didn't know that was a silent stage because I basically moderated the main stage and I was 100% occupied with that. So I thought that was a translation thing where people would get like live translation into other languages, and we can come back to that later because that's what your company is about, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a thing that's just about like that makes sense in between two stages that people have headphones on to hear. But it must be weird for the speaker as well to see that. I mean, I always liked it when I got live translation into other languages because there's this 5-second delay sometimes. You make a joke and then like half the audience laughs 10 seconds later because the translator managed to actually get the point across as well. So that was interesting. Well, I had it yesterday as well. I was for breakfast and there was this Chinese group that basically scanned the menu of the restaurant and thought to translate it and be able to order. And it was just like scrambled eggs and things like that. It was nothing special, but it failed completely into that. And I mean, I remember in English, German, it always works. And French, German, it quite okay as well. French, English as well. But like as soon as it goes into like Slavic languages or Asian languages, it becomes like really, really interesting. I tried to speak to a nurse in Polish once over the thing. Forget about it.
Yeah, that's similar to what I mean. If you look at the biggest translation companies right now, the mainstream languages, let's call it that, like German, English, Spanish, probably French as well. I don't know. The quality of translation for these languages is like awesome. Like for pretty much all of them. DeepL is a little bit better if you have really long-form content. Some companies can do shorter things better, but after all, the quality is really great because the internet is full of things in these languages. And then if you look at languages which are not so commonly used, things are getting trickier because there's just less material around to train models and everything.
Yeah, and I think the bigger problem is also that, like, especially in China, nothing comes out. I mean, because there's a big firewall kind of thing. Like that's the issue there. So yeah, it's a tricky one, and of course the grammar is different, and it's I mean, at least most of the European languages are Roman based, and you have a bit of a similarity between them. Like it's like.
Yeah.
Was it like an English is like when a French person shouts at a German, but he shouts in like Dutch, and then that's how English happened.
Pretty much. It's not far off it.
If you speak English and German, you can kind of read Dutch, like to some extent. Not everything.
Yeah.
But
you can't write it, and I mean that's the thing. Like if you try to pronounce it wrongly, just wrong enough to get into Dutch, it's really offensive to Dutch people, and it's not a good idea. Like, I mean, if you go to northernmost Germany, there's Plattdeutsch, which is like almost Dutch. It's like a very different language to German, but it's a mix of like all Scandinavian languages and Netherlands to a degree.
Wow, learning every day. Never knew that.
Talk about learning every day. So, what was your talk about, and what do you want to talk about right now? Can you give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, my talk is pretty much about. Well, the title is "I'm a developer working in marketing." Here's why. It's pretty much about explaining why it's a good thing to have a developer in marketing and why developers are a totally different audience to all the other audiences you might have in your company.
It's interesting because I mean, most of what you talked about, I actually wrote about in the Developer Evangelism Handbook years and years ago as well. Like, it always felt very bizarre to be part of marketing as a DevRel person. That's why when I started WeAreDevelopers, I said I want my own department as well. So within the first week of working here, I became from a director to a VP because VPs have their own departments and directors are just directors of departments of stuff. I don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that it has been a constant battle of mine over the years in different companies to make people realize that DevRel is not marketing, but they mesh quite together. but and can learn a lot from each other. But the sincerity that you talked about is basically the main thing. But it's interesting to see that the DevRel space has blown up so much over the last few years that it became a completely different beast of its own. I've seen so many people that get hired as like DevRel people for hire in other companies, whereas when I defined the whole thing, it was more like promoting from within to get like people who really know about the product and are involved in the product to talk about and write documentation and write examples, rather than people from the outside doing that for you, because that feels like developer marketing again, doesn't it? If people just get hired in as DevRel.
Yeah, somehow it does. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's still good even if you hire someone from the outside, because they can always learn about your product. Like, not knowing your product like someone from inside the company would, is something you can change pretty fast, because most developers are eager to learn new things daily anyway. But the things they bring with them is developer experience working with developers, experience working in development teams, engineering teams, and all that. And that's a lot, and you need that to be a developer evangelist or developer advocate. Like you said it yourself, people are getting promoted internally. Like, I've never met, and I don't think it's possible to be someone who just start their career as a developer evangelist or developer advocate, because you need to have that experience working as a developer for a couple of years to be actually able to do that. So no one would start straight away as a developer advocate.
And I think that also prevents you from saying things like cloud native and like LLM native and AI native and things like that, because you know it's going to be month and month of sort of trying the thing out, failing at it, and then basically discarding it for something else. And these kind of things like that hyperbole that of like showing things off. I mean, cloud native and AI native always cracks me up. Like, it's like, no, people are not born into that. This is not the Matrix where we have like a birthing pot where it's like, and I need 5 AI developers tomorrow. Can you please make them today for me? So it feels very weird. But sometimes it's the shortness of it that the stickiness of it, that's the thing. So I have a lot of discussions with how I write things for developers and then get it to marketing to rewrite it for normal people. And there's a good ground in the middle, I guess. I mean, Dan, you came from like video production and like and coding to DevRel. What was your feeling of like marketing versus thing? I mean, I feel like a firewall for you oftentimes because marketing wants you to do things all the time, and I'm like, no, he's got other things to do.
I think it's because I mean our marketing department are great, but I think there's always that issue with like people, it's such an ill-defined term. You know, Tim, I was thinking when you put up the 3 types, you know, the evangelist, the DevRel, and excuse me on the last one, it might have been speaker, but it's that there's absolutely like no constant, you know, there's no like standard. It's just whatever it means to that business and whatever they need you doing. I will say there was a lot that resonated, and actually, Chris, I just want to sort of pick up on something you said a couple of weeks ago, because I remember I asked Chris something like, "Why are we so hesitant to, or so like averse to this marketing talk? Why is it developers in particular have this like real dislike of marketing talk?" And Chris, you said something that stuck with me. You said something like, "Because we've been promised the API to end all APIs," like you said, Tim, so many times that we're just sick of hearing it. And would you say that's what it is, Tim, that it's just like fatigue and maybe you just don't believe anyone anymore? You need to try it for yourself to really know if they are just marketing to you?
I think a lot of that is, yes. I've seen so many websites and I've seen so many people, I've read so many claims. And at the end of the day, if I have, for example, if I have 2 products, one just has a great website and maybe a button, hey, talk to a sales guy to get a demo, and the other product has like, try it right now, and I can just use Postman, try the API, whatever, I definitely choose later, because I don't want to have a sales guy show me the product. That always is kind of, for me, is a negative, is a red flag, kind of. Like if a company doesn't have the, I don't know, I don't have a better word, but if a company doesn't have the balls to show out the product straight away, that's a red flag for me. Like, if you have a great product, then let people try it. Build some kind of mini demo around it. Have a demo version, whatever, but let people try it.
I mean, it can get expensive. It can get tricky. I mean, like my favorite example is like all the code assistants right now. I mean, Anthropic just started throttling the weekly usage of Claude as well, even for paying people. And I think that's just like a lot of people say, like, okay, if you throw it out there for people to try, first of all, they're not going to buy it. But second of all, that's actually cost us a lot of stuff in the AI world. But that's something you can actually throttle as well and say, like, here's like a 10-minute demo, or here's like a 15-second demo, or whatever, like, or here's like 5 prompts you can try out. But you're totally right, like, show me the thing rather than describe me the thing, or tell me a salesperson to show it to me. Which brings me to like live coding and demos on stage. I've spoken at 30 conferences a year at my heyday at Mozilla, and I always see people super excited about people showing live demos, and I'm so tired and sick and tired of them because they're always like the golden path, the thing that works, and then when you try it out yourself, you either get stuck in a sign up thing, or you basically realize it's not working at all. I'm very happy that all the live demos on stage failed at the Congress, because it showed that they were really live shows and that they really were trying to do it. But I'm getting kind of sick of this parlor trick of like, and now I press this button, I can spawn up 5,000 servers, which means your architecture is terrible. Like, you never should need 5,000 servers. Like, what does that help you with, kind of thing? I loved it at a large corporation I worked in that I'm not going to name. It's Microsoft. Where basically we had every live show, when you had live coding on stage, there was an engineer in the back live coding with you. And if something went wrong on stage, they immediately switched to the other screen. So it looked like the guy on stage was still doing it, or the lady on stage was still doing it, but in reality it was somebody in the background. And it was like one of the guys was doing that was Matt Veloso, who's now part of that big Meta think tank in AI. And for years and years, he was sitting in the background, basically being the fallback for live stage things going on there. But I think it's just a matter of like being sincere about the quality of your product. Things fail, and I think showing failure on stage and how you deal with it is actually much, much better than showing a perfect product.
Yeah, I think if I don't have remember many talks I did with live coding, but I remember one, and it all failed. Like, nothing worked, and I tried to fix it, and it didn't work, and all that. But looking back, that was one of the best talks I had, because people totally resonated with that and even got questions after that. And some guy came, yeah, you could have done this, X, Y, Z. And after that, we tried a couple of things and it worked, and he was happy seeing it. And that felt really great. Just one thing about Microsoft. I mean, I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I heard a story where they kind of said, for all the big conferences, they are not allowed to do live coding anymore, but actually use demos. Because if something fails, it might have an impact on stock market or whatever if you are Microsoft. I don't know if that's true, but it might make sense.
I haven't heard of it, but I would think about it. I mean, I did screencasts, and I told people that's a screencast, because instead of just like, I mean, setting it up at home to be perfect and work on my machine and then just recording the screencast, I mean, that's as honest as doing it, and you're not relying on the connectivity at the Congress. Like, one of the things at the Congress was like the demo didn't work because the person was offline, and he had turned off his Wi-Fi, and like it took him like 3 minutes to realize that, because jitters on stage and like being worried on stage, you find the worst things out there. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with companies that had like lockdown computers, so I couldn't use Wi-Fi of the company, of the Congress, for example, or the conference. So these things are always like, and it's so annoying when you do an API call on stage and you see it for like 30 seconds and then failing, and you have nothing to say over it.
Actually, I couldn't see it, but someone said you actually laughed about one guy on stage because it was so funny that failed, or you actually were really enjoying that something failed or something like that on the main stage this year.
Well, I said that basically I'm happy it failed because it shows that it's not perfect and that that it can be fixed on stage as well. I didn't haha, you're an idiot. Like, I mean, this is not what I do as a moderator, but like the idea of showing, like, saying that, like, and you could see it's not perfect because it's live and we had the guts to show it live rather than just like showing a video and showing a perfect example, is something that I pointed out. So, and that was a Microsoft guy, and he was basically, I think it was a Microsoft person I worked with before, and he was one of those that had to do that and hated it because he wanted to do live demos, and that can fail on stage to show how easy it is to fix it. But yeah, it's a tricky bit, and I mean, might be that it's a chip on my shoulder, but I just I just don't see the benefit of it. Because when I talk to audiences as well, it's like everybody is super excited to see like live coding. And then you ask them, so can you repeat what that person was actually doing there? Or could you use it yourself? And he's like, no idea. So it's all about how cool that person on stage is and how good they are in using their own product. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what I expect people to do, to be good at using their own product, right?
I've seen talks given by, and actually I kind of laughed about that and said, like, look, I can't remember what conference that was, but there was someone talking about an API. He has a pretty nice presentation. He had some short demo videos, whatever. But then got questions from the audience he couldn't answer at all. And at the end, it turned out, yeah, it was actually just some random guy in marketing who jumped in to do the talk. Who wasn't an engineer, who had no idea about APIs really. He just learned to do the talk. And you see that a lot, actually, that you have people talk about developer products who are no developers, who just learned a presentation, pretty much.
But that's
they can do the presentation quite well, but that's about it.
But that's partly your job as a DevRel person as well, to coach people in marketing, not to promise things on stage that don't make sense, and give them demos that actually show the nice things, but also coach them on like telling people about the downsides of it. But that's tricky. I mean, every developer is happy to do that. I'm happy to talk about like competitions being better because I try their stuff out as well. But like, I mean, that was the most uphill battle I had when I started with DevRel. I'm basically saying, like, the best way to promote your product is actually be knowledgeable about your competition and give credit where credit is due. And say, like, their API does that really well. We don't do that yet, but if you want it, we can actually put that feature in as well. We're doing this better, that kind of thing. Like, I mean, you as a developer, speaking to a developer audience, that makes you an expert and not a salesperson, because you looked around, you looked at the other things as well, and you compared them.
I keep doing that all the time. That, for example, I was on the .NET Developer Days in Warsaw, and I gave a talk about how to write multilingual apps, pretty much. And multiple times during the talk, I told them, hey, I'm actually showing you things, and I'm using DeepL as an API right now because I work for DeepL. But if you change X, Y, Z, you can insert the Google API here, and it works with Google straight away. And I also keep saying, like, Google Translate is probably, depending on what you translate, but Google Translate might be faster. It might be more real time. Whereas DeepL has a better quality. So you have, like, let's say you have a tiny little speed versus quality slider, whatever, and that's how you can switch between the different products. And that's just being honest to developers. Like, if I tell everyone, oh, DeepL is the fastest, best thing ever, no one believes that, because it's not. And that's just being honest. And that resonates with people way more than any hyped claims you can't
back up. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, when you're at a .NET conference and you're not showing Bing Translate, but
nope, I actually didn't even name it. I think no. Well, I did say Microsoft Translate, Google Translate, and DeepL. I think.
Yeah, I mean, all of these APIs are dying. I mean, they're all like moving away into like get folded into an AI agent now. And it's like, I mean, I talked about this when Angie was talking about how MCP is the new web of data mashup thing. And I'm like, yeah, because all the other APIs get killed month by month. And it's really, really depressing to see. Like, I mean, I thought you could rely on like large corporations or even find a way to get it monetized to say like, okay, your the free API, nobody believes in free anymore. I mean, that ship has sailed. But the point of like saying like if you pay for it, it's still available. That's a good thing to have. But I think there's nothing to rely on any longer.
Well, we have no plans to get rid of our API at all. We're actually extending things right now. So,
but you are more of a B2B offering, aren't you? Like as far as I saw it.
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, I mean, we do have a ton of we do have a ton of free API users. But the free API is pretty limited in terms of what you can do with it. Like it has a character limit of I think 500,000 characters per month or something like that. Like it's pretty limited. But we do have a lot of free users. We do have a ton of students. Like I was on Gamescom last year and. I was wearing a DeepL hoodie and tons of people, like young students, were like, "Oh yeah, I'm using DeepL to write my diploma or whatever," and they always all try to, talk about how they love DeepL for these things. But the money is in business. Yeah, we help businesses translate internal things, translate their internal processes, because the majority of big corporate enterprises, they are all multi-language. Like none of these are only German or only English. They are multi-language. They need to translate things. They need to have their internal documents translated, emails translated, and all that kind of stuff. I remember one company, I actually helped them build it. They do have a system where you can send anything you want to the HR department, like any of your personal documents, whatever, in your native language. So a Polish guy sends them a document, and they always get the original and an English translated version of the document.
Yeah, and I guess that's also the case in like Google and Microsoft and others, that basically they have a lot of like internal clients where they make the money with, and the free ones are there to attract developers. And that seems to be like nowadays you do attract end users with an AI bot that basically is like, I mean, when I worked on developer tools, the big money question from the marketing people was like, what's the time in product? Like this is how everything was measured. Everything was compared to YouTube or to Facebook, and like how sticky is our application. I'm like, I'm using developer tools. Like if people stay in the developer tools for 5 hours, then the developer tools are terrible. You're supposed to go in there, debug something, and get out of them. Like there's actually time in product in the console is probably not the best metric to actually validate the quality of your console product. So that was the fascinating bit there. I mean, 500,000 a month sounds a lot, but then that's basically a normal introductory email in German. That's like 500,000 characters because you have to say it the right way and you have to write it the right way, and that's basically that. Like,
Yeah,
German can be quite long indeed. Yeah.
I mean, I was actually just thinking then about a friend of mine who sent me some documents. Tim's. It's funny because I was just thinking then I might have even sent her towards DeepL at the time, because she was she's from Brazil, but she's working for a banking startup, and she works with risk assessments essentially. So it was the case of getting these these translations kind of being accurate, and they were able to get it translated into Spanish quite easily. Her being a Portuguese speaker, she could kind of check it and verify it. But it was German was the difficult one, because there were so many words that the translation software was struggling with, because it was these I'm not sure what you call them, like almost concatenated words where you put 3 or 4 words together to make a new one. And so even though the kind of the context.
Compound
nouns. There we go.
Word, yeah.
Nice. So it's just the way that that the across those different languages, some of the nuance would get sort of lost, I suppose. And that she's essentially saying to me, "Can you send this to all your colleagues in WeAreDevelopers and get them to check it?" And I was like, "I think this is a job that somebody needs to do, or AI." So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's also areas, a friend of mine, he's also Microsoft MVP, and he works he's a lawyer, pretty much translating SLAs and things like that. Mm-hmm. And he told me at some point, he always runs it through DeepL, so he doesn't manually translate anything anymore. He only proofreads things. And he said like 95% is fine. It's just, especially in legal, sometimes if there's one word not accurate, then the whole paragraph might be not valid and all that. So especially legal contracts are really tricky. But he said like really, really often it's completely fine, and he just reads through it, fixes 2 or 3 things, and off you go. And he even had things where it's only for like some internal thing where he runs it completely through DeepL and doesn't even care. That's also what I know from quite a few companies. And that's probably, I said it before, but that's probably the same also, and they don't use DeepL, but they have like various criteria for translations. If it's only internal communications to internal employees, run it through a translation engine, off you go. If it's something external facing, which is maybe just a newsletter or whatever, then maybe have a closer look. And if it's like a press release or something that's permanently on your website, then you pre-translate it and you probably rephrase quite a few things, and that's still quite some manual work.
I guess that's where a professional product like DeepL comes in, because you can give it a context. You can say like, okay, translate this, but in a financial market, or translate this, but for developers, so it doesn't translate table as like table to put things on, but table as a database. That kind of like that inference and that extra thesaurus is automatically put in by a product, rather than just you having to tell the thing about it.
Yeah, we detect that automatically based on the content. So I always use the example Angular and React pretty much, because if our model figures out, oh, that's a mathematician talking about some formulas, then it would translate the word. And if it detects, hey, that's actually IT content, then it would use the names. And you don't have to do anything. It's just.
I liked when in the Edge docs, when Chromium was always translated as the chemical compound rather than as the product, and into German. And I'm like, why is it doing that? Oh, okay, now I understand. That makes sense.
You can, if you look at the Microsoft docs, especially in German, you can still find some weird things in there. Yeah.
Which is scary to me, isn't it? Because now Amazon, Netflix, and all the others announced that they're going to do like translation automatically, even of captions and subtitles. And I mean, YouTube captions in English are funny already, like the automatically generated one. The question is now basically what happens with translation as well.
Yeah, it actually depends a little bit, because as far as I know, YouTube has varying levels. Like if you look at channels, I don't know if I can name a channel here, but the top guy who always gives things away if you keep your hand on a car. Yeah, okay. If you look at his, all his videos are dubbed automatically in like 24 languages, something like that. And as far as I know, that's YouTube doing it for him. He's not doing that himself. He's only having English videos, and YouTube's automatically dubbing that. And I also noticed that the subtitles for him are way more accurate than things I've seen in other channels. So I'm not sure if he's uploading them himself. I don't know. But there are really huge differences in quality when it comes to YouTube.
I would guess they make him a lot of money, so they actually put more effort in to actually make them better quality as well. So that's not surprising.
Probably,
yeah. But I mean, he's got like sweets in a supermarket now. Like there's like Mr. Beast chocolate bars like in the supermarket next to me, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
It's really, really odd. Now
it's like the one with the absolute highest subscriber numbers on YouTube, like rank 1 or something.
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a numbers game at times. Like it's just really, we talked about this before, that you actually have to go in a certain fashion to actually rival TikTok. And I wouldn't feel good about it, much like I wouldn't feel good writing perfect marketing materials. Like it's the same thing. It's just a different audience, like an ADHD kids on Sugar Rush, like write for them and show as many memes as you can. Makes you wonder about that. So we have another 10 minutes left. So let's take some resources that we talk about. So we have a bit to cover here. One thing I found interesting is that, many people forgot about this. It's been announced a year ago that all Google links will stop working in August. And interestingly enough, the ones generated from Google Maps will work still if they were created from the app, not from the web interface. But I mean, this is a stark reminder to me, like that if you don't own the domain, it's probably a bad idea to do that. It also makes me wonder if all the generated QR codes that you generate in Chrome, they had Google shortcuts as well. So I wonder if those are all dying as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one that, I mean, people set up their own URL shortness or use Bitly and pay for it or something. But again, if it's free, I don't trust it any longer.
Why are they closing it? Sorry, Tim.
I guess abuse. I would not be surprised if people generated like thousands of Google short links to give malware downloads more trustworthiness. I mean, IBM had a IBM.com links for years that was completely open. So if you want your horrible website to look really, really cool, you could actually redirect from the IBM website. The other thing that was interesting, but we're going to come back to that later in a second, that the translation pages were used for all kind of nefarious and interesting bits as well. This is interesting that Schneier on security had this prompt that actually you can put into ChatGPT, and actually it tells you what it knows about you. And it's quite interesting to see just how off it sometimes is. And so I mean, I tried it out, and I'm a classical musician at the Hamburg Opera. Didn't know about that I was, but there's a guy called Heilmann, but not Christian, and they just basically randomly hallucinated bits together. But it's an interesting prompt to try out to see what the thing knows about you. Much like when I do a Google search, I don't have a Wikipedia page, but it builds like this thing of me that looks quite accurate. It's quite scary, actually, just to see how much your digital footprint over the years made out.
It knows your whole medical history, because so many people apparently use ChatGPT as doctor, and then ChatGPT knows all your history.
And like as a psychologist as well. And I mean, that's a really worrying thing, that if the medical system is so overwhelmed that people use ChatGPT instead, and you're like, you have no idea where that data is going. This is just scary.
A friend of mine's been doing that, actually. Just on that, Chris. It's a friend of mine who's she's a single mother, and she's moved to the UK from another country. So she's kind of feeling, trying to find her feet. And she said that to us the other day, that she's not going to a counsellor because she can't afford it, and the NHS waiting line is very long. So she said, I've been chatting to ChatGPT every day, and was saying it like it was a good thing. But I think every developer I've mentioned that to has this like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. It's going to hallucinate all kinds of crazy stuff. So yes, it's worrying. But like you said, Tim, the average person is, let's say, thinking differently about technology. I'm being very diplomatic there. Yeah, scary.
That Langfast thing is interesting. It's basically like JS Fiddle for prompts. So you can actually create prompts and run them through different products, and then see what the results are and share them with communities. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. I would love to see more of that. But I don't know who owns that and how supported it is. It's by Eugene. Maybe we should ask him and get him interested and talk to him about it. Tim, what do you use as your models to play with?
Well, I use ChatGPT a lot. And Gemini sometimes, but I pretty much only use ChatGPT most of the time. Kind of got used to it, because I've been in one of the early beta invites, whatever. So I've been there for quite a while, and kind of just stick to it. I don't know. I rarely use Google these days. I'd rather use ChatGPT and ask something there.
Interesting. I mean, I'm used Copilot in Visual Studio Code for my coding stuff. You just basically let it autocomplete, and then you normally
I do that as well. Yeah. I use Copilot a lot as well.
That's weird. So let's try that. Split screen. Cool. People in the UK have to take an age verification selfie to watch something online. And what I find very fascinating is that actually that people, instead of having a selfie or or actually use their real passport, they actually let ChatGPT generate a fake passport, or like a picture of an older person and work around that way. I mean, this is an endless race, isn't it? This is impossible to actually do. And it feels like interesting that the UK took the plunge and actually started it.
It's not popular, I'll say that much. It has dominated the news here for the last 3 or 4 days. We won't go into the politics, but let's just say that the party that has put this in place it is probably going to be punished for it the next time that people can vote. But it's also I saw an even worse one, or maybe it's better, Chris, than that, when he said people using ChatGPT. I followed a Reddit thread, and the top comment just said, to get verified by Reddit, I googled UK passport and uploaded the first image I found. They said, hi, as a 30-year-old man, I will now be known as a 40-year-old woman called, Jane or whatever, because of this this image. And then people were in the replies saying, still works, still works, still works. And then somebody said, now they've changed it, and I think you have to upload like a live video now to show that it's actually you. But I mean, I posted the other day about it. VPNs have skyrocketed. The top 10 most downloaded apps on the App Store are just VPNs, nothing else. So I mean, that tells you it's ridiculous. It's absurd. I get they're protecting children, but yeah.
Which scares me, because I mean, we had the newsletter on Friday. There were like 10 VPNs from China that are basically malware, and these are all the free ones and cheap ones. So if it says VPN and free, no, don't. You pay for that stuff. That basically is something. I mean, I'm using Malvat and I'm using Proton. These are the two that I'm using, and I've not VPN. I've never had any complaints about any of those, but all the others, just basically, the cheaper they look, the more horrible they probably are. And given that HTTPS 2 encrypts anyways, the only thing that VPNs are really useful for is just masking your location. The rest is not that necessary anymore than it used to be. So don't trust the whole, like, when people tell you, you need VPN or otherwise people will find you. It's like, when you do illegal shit, they will find you. Let's put it this way. It's not a perfect shield for that, but it's very interesting. In the past, as I said before, people used Google Translate to actually translate websites from English to English that were blocked in universities and stuff like that, because Google Translate, the page wasn't blocked, but any of the translation services were possible to read websites or access websites that were blocked by a university. So that's a big use case that was there as well in the past.
People will find a way.
Yeah,
they always find a way.
And I found this one really cool as well. Okay, what are you doing?
Yeah, I've seen that one before. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. Like, I mean, first of all, if you allow an agent to basically go to the command line of your tool and basically get root access to everything, you had it coming. But I loved how it actually tried to cover its tracks, how it actually started hallucinating, like, no, I didn't delete that. That must mean somebody else. Like, that was the AI lying to the person. And that was just hilarious. You're like, okay, that's really bizarre.
I thought this was the company lying about having done that. Okay, this is even better, because I misread that headline. I thought it was somebody did it, vibe coding like the CEO, and then lied. Yeah. This is wow.
No, the AI actually lied to the user and tried to hide things, which is interesting, because to do that, the AI needs to, like, can you argument the AI needs to understand it did something wrong?
Well, I mean, that's where I guess it comes in then with ethics of AI and everything. Like, basically, lying is, I mean, in essence, what is a hallucination if it's not lying? Like, it's like, I'm trying to give you something, although, I mean, we have one thing coming up where we do like automated translation and transcription of all our videos and allow you to actually search and create shorter videos from it, kind of thing. And the amount of times it basically said, like, at minute 150 of like a 10-minute video, it said this and that. Like, basically, the hallucination of timestamps was a really, really fascinating, weird bit to actually work around. It's going to be interesting to see how that works in the past. But yeah, I guess that brings back to the sycophantic thing we had a few weeks ago as well, where basically, like, that the AI chatbot is too nice to you, or like, rather than just like not never saying no. It says like a very complicated yes, and thanks you 15 times for asking the right question. I'm like, that doesn't help me if there's no answer coming, right?
Did you read about the thing where I think that was OpenAI said multiple millions per year are wasted on thank you and please?
Yeah,
because people are too nice to ChatGPT.
But then there were a few papers that actually said that if you say nice and please, you get better answers from it as well. Like there was a proof of concept that basically said, like, if you treat it like a human or you give it a persona, then it actually gives you much nicer answers and more contextual answers as well. This is also really cool. It's a comparison site for price per token where you can see like which model costs you what by how much. And I think that's really, really useful because, I mean, if you think about like, we had somebody from Reuters on Coffee with Developers years ago, and they have that internally. When they do a research with AI, it actually shows them the different models, and they have like a dashboard saying like, this is how much that cost the company, and this is the result quality. So they filter out the usage of different models that way by having people automatically find out how expensive it was. I found that really interesting.
Wow, I didn't even know there were that many. The ones at the bottom, I swear it was showing you that what was going to cost 1 cent is going to cost $600. Yeah, okay, that must be some.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, stay away.
Well, that's probably not per token. Like 600.
No, 1 million token.
Probably not.
1 million tokens.
Yeah.
That's also like the coding agent. Like there was an interesting use case where they basically realized like, okay, there's like $50 a day just to get my engineers less productive because they're actually discussing with the chatbot rather than writing code. And it's interesting to that. Yeah, we're in this fight where we're replacing developers with coding agents, and at the same time, developers are not really getting more effective with it. It's got to be interesting how that washes out.
Someone shared an article about that probably a week ago. I can't remember where it came from, but it was like developers using Copilot and AI tools are actually like about 30% less productive than they used to be before.
We had that in the newsletter. That was the meta, whatever research and papers, and it was only 100 people that they asked. So that's taken me a grain of salt. But yeah, it's. I mean, I get distracted by coding agents. Like when I start writing code and then it offers me a different way of approaching it, and it offers me yet another different way and saying like, oh, by the way, this library has this built in. Do you want to use that one? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not focusing on the task any longer. I'm focusing on writing the code. And to me, writing code was always a means to an end, not the final product.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think at some point it definitely helps you to increase your performance, but it's a long learning curve to get used to all the things, and then the tools constantly change and do other things. And I mean, Copilot by now, probably most people know how to use it properly because it's been out there for so long. But then all the other tools, Cursor, for example.
And that's also worrying that basically the newest captcha of Cloudflare, ChatGPT, the newest version, can actually go through it. And there is a video showing and ChatGPT explaining how it's done it.
Yep. And ChatGPT even said, "Now I'm clicking on the 'I'm not a robot' button. Oh, I did it. Now I'm not a robot." Yeah.
So it makes you wonder what we can do. I mean.
That was about
robots.txt directly blocking. I mean, to a degree, chat captchas always felt to me like using our users as like test bunnies for things. Because I mean, like reCAPTCHA was used by Google Books to actually have like scanned books, and when they were unreadable, then people said that what it said, and that's how they fixed Google Books. And then I guess they shut it down or something, or I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting that a captcha is still, to me, it feels like an end user should not have to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and especially captchas are getting so weird. Like, hey, out of all these 6 turtles, which is the one facing left? I don't know. Or show me, hey, what is not a bunny in this picture with 5,000 bunnies? What? Like, it's getting increasingly difficult for users. just to make it harder for bots, where bots don't care and they just solve it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same when people say, like, how do you detect if like an image was generated by AI? And I'm like, well, a machine is probably better at detecting that it was than humans are.
Yeah. And that I was actually reading some articles. I'm really interested in video creation, like VO3 and all these Google models creating videos. And we got to a point where, especially images, as a human, you can't identify. For some of them, you just have no way to identify that's AI made. However, if you look at the details, AI made videos and images often have really small defects, like 5 pixels that would never appear that way in nature. And AI can detect that. As a human, yeah, you can take Photoshop and scan through every pixel and maybe find it, but an AI can totally detect if an image is AI made. And it's also interesting about Suno, for example, that song AI thingy. I've made a song. I just played around with it. If I listen to it on my mobile phone, for example, I would say, "Oh, that's a nice song." I wouldn't know it's AI made. I sent it to a couple of friends who are like DJ working as a producer and all that. They instantly knew it's AI made because there's a couple of things they recognize and say, "Look, that can't be human made." But we're getting to a point where like the average human can't recognize AI content anymore.
Cool. Well, I guess we are far ahead of the time that we were supposed to have allocated here for the 10-minute talk and stuff. It was great having you, Dan and Tim, and it was it's always a joy to actually just play and look through a few things. And yeah, so any other DeepL talks at the event this time? I try to remember right now.
No, you didn't accept anyone else. We had actually had 6 people with submissions, but you only accepted me.
Right. Well, not only me. There were a few other people involved as well. Like I'm not the only one that says yay or nay. So yeah, it's that's interesting. Anything coming up in your department? Do you have like an internal conference or online conferences that you run, or is it something that you're not invested in that moment?
There's a couple of things we are thinking about and planning and doing, but nothing I can talk about yet.
Okay, well, if you need help with that, WeAreDevelopers can do that. That's not the issue at all. So thanks very much, Tim. Any last words from you to our audience out there?
No, that's the only thing I really enjoy being part of that all the time. I think that was like the 6th time I went to WeAreDevelopers, so I don't know, but really love everything you guys do.
Dan, you get the last word. What's the message of this week that you have for our audience out there?
I'm just going to say the message is go and check out DeepL. And so what I'm going to do, though, is then translate that into 50 different languages using DeepL. And then that will be that's real authentic marketing. See, I'm not in marketing either, but yeah. So maybe that, Chris, we'll go with that. Put me on the spot there. Be happy, make things with code, write code, make things with it. Enjoy your week. That's all I'd say.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for watching and for being with us. And that was WeAreDevelopers Live for the 30th of July. And we see you next Wednesday.